The tension boiled over to the point where people converged on Washington for the March on Washington early in the fall. And Congressman Frank, I believe, went on record as saying, you know, this was a stupid idea. That, you know, marching was a waste of time, I think was what he said. Is it a waste of time for people to turn their frustrations with the administration into action like that? Yes or no?
There's a lot of different kinds of action. I mean, they can all be constructive. I think what Representative Frank was saying is that he thought it would be more effective if they sought out meetings with their elected officials in their districts, if they called them, if they started, you know, organizing, perhaps showing up at events and making a point of it, rather than being in Washington in a weekend when the members of Congress weren't even there.
Yeah, when no one's there.
So, people realize most members of Congress, we're not there on weekends. We go back to our home districts on weekends. It's a commuting position, so every Monday and Friday we're on a plane. So to come to D.C. and do a big thing on a Saturday, Tammy and I weren't even there. I mean,
on a holiday Saturday, too.
Yeah, so I don't know if there was anybody in the audience.
I took the other side of that and think that marching and other demonstrations are a very important part of civil rights movements. I'm not sure if the march on Washington in '64 was on a Saturday or a Monday, but it was pivotal and it made an incredible difference. You know, lobbying is critical, but you can't divorce all of these parts of the civil rights movement from one another, and I think they are all very important components.
Is there too much
running for office too, by the way?
Is there too much focus on President Obama and not enough focus on you guys?
I would argue that. Because he has done, as you heard from Jan Berry say in this executive order, as much as he could, changing policy in areas where we didn't need to change the statute. But don't ask, don't tell is enshrined, unfortunately, in our federal law. There are obstacles to passing domestic partnership health benefits and other fringe benefits in our federal law. Those obstacles need to be removed, or proactive legislation needs to be passed, and they can't happen by our president, you know, waving a magic wand. That said, the bully pulpit that he has is incredible, and when he does speak out forcefully, it aids our efforts dramatically.
You know, one thing we could do better is kind of target the focus of who should be the focus of our concerns a little bit better. I mean, again, I think it shouldn't be anger with President Obama. It should be, you know, a discussion among friends, encouraging him to move forward. Likewise, sometimes Tammy and I get anger from the LGBT community. Why aren't you moving faster? As if we're the ones that don't want to move faster. I mean, especially vitriolic stuff about Representative Frank because of some of the things that he said about, and you don't. I mean, look, Barney, Tammy, and I, we're not the people standing in the way. Look at, for instance, how the pro-choice community has handled a terrible step backwards in healthcare. It's not the pro-choice leaders that they're upset with. I'm in the pro-choice caucus, and Diana to get from my seat. I mean, they're not saying you guys are terrible. They're going after the handful of members who caused the problem, and then the few in the middle that they're trying to sway. I think the LGBT community should focus more on the people that we need to win over, rather than trying to just talk to our friends and be angry that they haven't delivered. We count on our allies, and we need the support of the community in helping to bring more people on board.
So when President Obama was elected, most people realized that the guy really had basically a calendar year to try to get something done, because once January 1, 2010 hit, everyone's going to be running for Congress. Running for re-election, the midterm elections. You guys know about that. So given that basically everything comes to a screeching halt when Congress goes up for re-election, will LGBT agenda items, bills that you're trying to get through, that your accomplishments you're trying to get done, will they suffer in the process?
I would say that January 1st isn't the point of demarcation, but probably It's a phenomenon that absolutely occurs, and I'd say February or March, maybe a little beyond the State of the Union, and then you're really turning into, in the House side, election mode. But we're pretty much queued up, I think, to get some of the major lifts underway by then. So Domestic Partnership Benefits and Obligations Act should be before the House either the week after next or early in January. We can see a January markup and February House consideration of ENDA. And I think when we do the Defense Authorization Bill, which we do every year, it's a must-pass bill for the Congress, inclusion of Don't Ask, Don't Tell, all of that really within the first 2-3 months of 2010. The question then is...
You think that Don't Ask, Don't Tell will go up for a vote in, just say, February?
I think there's a really good chance of that.
It could be repealed, passed, done.
Yeah, I mean, the lead author of the bill, Patrick Murphy, who's been superb on this, yes, thank you, Pennsylvanian. We're getting close to having a majority of the House on the bill. We're not there yet.
It's got 184 I texted him this morning saying, how many sponsors do you have? There's 184 sponsors and 15 commitments to vote for it. And those are the people who have told him you can acknowledge. So he's probably bumping up again. Was it 211 that you need to get, right? 218.
218.
Sorry.
So that's the House side politics. I think we're really queued up to be able to get those 3 major accomplishments taken care of by just around the State of the Union, maybe a little bit beyond. The Senate politics are different, as you know. Only a third of them will be up in 2010. And they're also going to have to look at strategies like attaching these agenda items to other bills, which perhaps will insulate them even more. So I'm hopeful that we'll still see those 3 pieces of legislation make it all the way or darn close.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. The 2 that we have the votes for in the House and we should be delivering shortly will be ENDA and Domestic Partnership Benefits. Don't Ask, Don't Tell is the bigger push will be needed for that, but with the support of the Commander-in-Chief and with the military support that he's lined up, a lot of people on those committees listen to advice from the military and so forth and take that very seriously, and there's been a big sea change with regard to that. The Joint Forces magazine had a cover article that talked about the negative impact of Don't Ask, Don't Tell on security and readiness. So I think we're moving in the right direction. I mean, that's the one that will need the most of a push from our national advocacy.
I figure if Israel and Australia can let gay troops in, and they're not wimps or anything, the United States should be able, to have gay troops. So